All right, it is week 6. It's the last of our content-based videos. We're talking about equilibrium. So let's see what there is to say. All right, welcome back again. We're on week 6. We're talking about equilibrium this week. What we've done thus far, we've looked at perspective, we've looked at correlation, we looked at moral influence, we looked at bias, and now we're going to be talking about equilibrium, okay? And as we started looking at these things, each week we looked at the critical analysis, that it was a series of questions that allowed us to explore and get greater understanding depending upon the context of various scenarios that could be presented. This video is actually going to be a little shorter than the others. We're really introducing terms and concepts. The value of what we're doing here with regards to equilibrium will really be seen as we move next week into our algorithms, and then the subsequent week where we're using weights to adjust these algorithms. All right, so there isn't really a steps for critical analysis in this particular video here. There's an activity for you to do with our to-dos. If you were to go out and look at the outline, as I said, this video is actually fairly short and we'll move straight into it. Look at videos. There's only one real activity that we're going to be talking about at all. So with that, let's go ahead and move into the course, and we'll move right into the presentation. As I said, you go out there and the rest of it looks, for all intents and purposes, like what you've been doing in the previous weeks anyway. So there is something for you to do towards for homework this week. In case you were wondering, do I have to do anything? Yeah, there's something to be done. I mean, there are grades to be assessed and so on and so forth. We'll move right into our definitions here. Okay. There are 4 of them, just 4 that we're going to be talking about this week. So we're looking at what? Altruism. Now, you might say, well, didn't we cover that last week? We did. We did talk about altruism, but we're actually looking at the different forms of altruism that we're going to be, that impact the way we use our algorithm that we'll be exploring next week. So with that, I mean, we already know what we're actually talking about with regards to altruism, but we're talking about the 4 forms. We're just looking at 4 forms: nepotistic, reciprocal, group-based, and then moralistic, right? We're going to be looking at justice, which is administration, application of impartial judgments. You know what justice is. We're talking about fairness, rewards, and punishment. You're looking at evidence. You're looking at, what else are you looking at? Acceptable conduct, all right? I mean, when you're talking about society and you have interactions between multiple people, sometimes things don't work out. You understand? I mean, there are going to be disputes. And then how do you make sure things are going to be fair and equitable such that everybody walks away at least satisfied that they were heard and satisfied that the results were in some way fair, and I can rely on this system next time. Maybe I didn't come out on top this time. Maybe next time I'll be the one coming out on top. I mean, that's what justice actually gives us. And then the other one, we're looking at liberty. We're actually talking about 2 forms of liberty, both positive and negative. And then we're talking about our equilibrium, which is a state of balance between what could be opposing forces. These forces that we're talking about this week are the equilibrium, justice, and liberty. So while they might not be opposing, they do carry characteristics which could impact the prosecution or the execution of each one of them. Hence, altruism could impact justice, which could impact liberty, depending on how you look at it. The equilibrium is a state. It's a position wherein these forces, as they are acting, for all intents and purposes, cancel out in this particular one spot. So we'll talk about how what that actually looks like, so on and so forth. We're going to move straight into the one real activity we have for this particular lesson. It's in your own words, 5.2. The concept of liberty, altruism, and justice. How do they reinforce? How do they conflict? And, if you were looking at those things, is there any kind of importance? Would you value altruism higher than liberty? Or would you value liberty higher than justice? I mean, do you have any type of ordering for those things? So explore those things, talk about it, and then we'll get back to what we're going to be doing when you return. Okay, first up, we're actually talking about liberty. And we're actually looking at the two types of liberty that we're going to be exploring, which is positive and negative. So positive liberty is, for all intents and purposes, it's like the drive. It's what I use. It's what pushes me to get things done. So let's say I'm doing things in corporate America. There were systems that I had to create, architectures which had to be derived. There are all kinds of things that I did. I had the liberty to move forward to re-architect. So we could have had a large-scale system and it needed to be redesigned for whatever reason. I remember we did have a project like that once. We had big issues. I mean, we were losing data, didn't know where the data was going. I had a positive liberty that gave that, in a way, I had the freedom to go through and redesign this system in a way so that we could find the problems that we were running into. All right. Negative liberty. What is that? Is it opposite? No, not really. And it just so happened that I had what I would consider the best manager I ever had. All right. She was all about almost greasing those skids. So if there was a hard problem, there was something that needed to get done, she was the kind of person who would get the obstacles that were in my way out of the way, right? That was really indispensable. I mean, if you're looking at what could be insurmountable odds, well, don't put trip lines in front of you as you start this race. Somebody remove these things so that I can get going. That would be the removing of those obstacles, all right? The absence of those things. That would be what we're talking about with regards to negative liberty, all right? So it's not really an opposite to positive liberty. It's just you might have the drive to move forward, but there are obstacles that always exist. The negative liberty is the removal of those obstacles so that you can allow your drive to push you to do all the things that you need to do. All right, that's what we're actually talking about with regards to those things. But nevertheless, even with liberty, it doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't know. I mean, I have the freedom to, I have the freedom to walk outside and mow my lawn. Okay, that's cool. Just because I have liberty, because I have the liberty to do that doesn't necessarily mean I have the liberty to mow my neighbor's lawn, right? I mean, I just don't. I guess I could. I don't know. Let me take a step back. I think they might welcome me mowing their lawn if I were out there doing mine, especially if it was a hot day. Yeah, well, I take that back. It depends on what time of day I was out there, because I could go out there mowing their lawn 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sun's just burning down on the grass, and I go cutting their lawn, and yeah, that could make somebody angry. So I guess maybe so. And on one end, you might say, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, do it, B. On the other hand, I don't want to be burning up their lawn. Now I have to pay for it. So, I mean, liberty is good, but there's a time and place for that kind of thing. Okay? Let's move on to talking about the next thing that we're actually going to be looking at. And with that, we're going to be talking about what? Look at my slow computer. We're going to be talking about justice. Now, as I said before, when we were talking about justice, we were looking at 4 types. Okay, first up, we have procedural, which includes administration and application of rules to make sure we have impartial outcome. I mean, without procedural justice, I mean, there is no real way to make sure that things could even be fair at all, for all intents and purposes. So what are we actually talking about? If we have laws, I mean, that's what those things actually are for. I mean, my kids, as I was raising kids, they liked the fact that I had some type of procedural justice. I had these things really covered. It made sure that, when I say somebody had to sweep the floor, and that was the chore that they had to do, that if I say they had to do it, well, everybody else had to do it. I mean, you just couldn't say one could do it, or, I know you have to sweep the floor, but, I'll give you a pass, right? Because I can. And it made sense to have rules that were consistent so that they can make sure that everybody is on the same level, right? I mean, I had 6 boys. I mean, they were all relatively the same age, so I mean, they were all looking. I mean, when somebody did something and they were caught, right? And they were standing before the law and the light was beaming down on them. They were sweating. I'm looking down, right? I mean, you can picture it. I mean, it was silence because everybody was sitting. They were waiting. They wanted to know how this is going to go down. Is Dad going to let it go? Or is it going to go the way that it's always gone? Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it went the way it always went. They laugh about it nowadays. That's all right. That's life. That's what raising family is all about. Distributive justice. Make sure there's fair allocation and distribution of resources. Yes. Yes. We went out Halloween, trick-or-treating. Okay? Everybody brought their bags, their buckets, whatever they did. You know what we actually did? We brought back all of our candy. All right? We had a great big giant table. We dumped all of those bags on the table, and then we divvied out certain things up front, but then we stuffed all the rest of it in a bag. And so we ate out of this candy for months, right? I mean, we'd take the kids to go to parks, or we'd take them to go to these play tubes and ball pits and the rest of this crazy stuff. Heck, we even took them to movies. We did. I know. Movie theaters wanted me to buy the candy there. What, for $10 a bar? I ain't doing that. You understand? Not with 7 kids. Please. So we had our candy, we had our little bags, and there was a fair and equal distribution of this candy, right? Or there would have been problems, big problems. So if one person got a bag of Skittles, okay, I mean, if I gave the other one a Jolly Rancher, well, that's not the same. If I'm going to give you a fun bag of Skittles, I want a fun bag of M&Ms, if not a fun bag of Skittles. You understand? It was fair. That's what that distributive justice is all about. Making sure that whenever you do have fairness and allocation and resources, that everybody can say they're getting their fair share. Retributive. We're talking about addresses the fair application for wrongful action, right? That was one of those things. The application should be consistent. In our household, what I actually had was, we called it the codified Fortress Prime's codified law is what I called it. It was really just a PDF of a bunch of rules. It had like chore identifications. It had what we call what you needed to do to fix up your room. Like, let's say when you left for the day. You go to school. There was what we called a hotel prep. Okay. Which you get, let's say, like when you're at a hotel and you leave the room and people come in and clean and straighten you up. I call that a hotel prep. The bed is made, towels are up off the floor, clothes ain't hanging around. And for all intents and purposes, it looks clean. You can have the door open. So that's a hotel prep in our household was door open. I'm not offended if I look into it. Right? That's what that was. But you also had this other daily prep. Now you can have a bed thrown together as long as the stuff up off the floor. But a daily prep is, you don't have towels and nasty, sweaty clothes hanging on the floor, but it was rather picked up. But you can have the door closed because I don't want to see that now. You understand? So we had different laws for those kinds of things. Restorative justice, addressing and righting the wrong, so on and so forth. Loss and compensation. So whenever there was retribution for wrongful action, we had what? There were penalties. And if they did something wrong, they always knew what they could do to for all intents and purposes, pay me back, right? Because they did something wrong, they took from me in some way. That's right. If perhaps they took my good mood away. There, I want my good mood back. I want it back. And so here's what I can get back. I don't know. You go dust those blinds over there. Dust the ceiling fan. That'll put me in a good mood again. And so, that was teacher called me after school, said he didn't hand in all of his work. Right. Bad mood now. Bad mood. I'm going to need some retribution. You understand? And that retribution frequently consisted of doing something for Fortress Prime, which is what we called our house. The house always wanted something. It always took sweat, tears, or blood. One of the three. Some kind of liquid is what this house took. So they would give it up. That's what happened. That's what that retribution came in. So, righting the wrong, making sure the compensation in a fair and consistent manner. I had one son who always touched other people's stuff. He did. He always claimed he wanted to fix this. I'm gonna fix your camera so it works right. You know what? He always ended up breaking up stuff. He did. I don't know. He had monkey paws. I heard someone refer to that recently for really strong hands, and you really mean well, but you just break stuff. Yeah, he was like that. Always breaking up everybody else's stuff. Claiming he's going to try to solve their problems. Yep. Well, so, restorative justice. You cough that up. You broke his stuff. You give him yours. Yours is still working. You take his broken thing. That's what you get now. Right? So, that kind of justice, it worked. It works. It does. It makes people feel as if they are respected. It makes them feel as if they are considered. That things are it's not totally unfair. And really, again, you have this justice in place. It happens and it's used. If I'm on an island, I think I started out our entire series like this, talking about being on an island by myself and whether I was going to choose to eat fish in the ocean. Yeah, I did. That's what I did. I did talk about that. But, if I'm on an island by myself, I guess I could be fair and just to myself. This really only applies once we're actually talking about a social context, when you actually have multiple people around. Okay? It's all about trying to get along. And then, once you're actually talking about justice, talking about getting along, well, there's another form. So we looked at liberty, we talked about justice. Let's take a look at altruism again.